Hi, this is Barry Rose, and welcome to our series on the signs of the zodiac, continuing with Capricorn today. Again, we've got Saturn going into Capricorn on January 23rd. Venus went into Capricorn already, and we're starting to move into the winter. So I thought we'd get a head start on Capricorn, which is kind of a very fascinating sign. As always, we start with some Vedic chanting. I'll put my contact information up if you need it here while we're chanting. Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Ganapatiye Namaha, Om Ganapatiye Namaha, Om Ganapatiye Namaha, Vakritunda Mahakaya, Surya Koti Samaprapa, Nirvigyam Kurme Deva, Sarvakareshi Sarvada, Sahana Vavatu, Sahano Bunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahai, Tejasvinavatitamastru Mavivishayavahai, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so here's my contact information. I do have some slides to present, and I will pull those up for you. Now, Capricorn is one of those, is obviously owned by Saturn. And we always kind of think of Capricorn as kind of a very practical sign of the zodiac, very conservative, very responsible, hardworking. Those things are all very true. Capricorn in Sanskrit is known as Makara, which is roughly translated into the word crocodile. However, it's really kind of more of an amphibian creature with the head of a deer and the body of an amphibian. And to me, it kind of is symbolic of the dragon that comes out of the swamp. You know, the swamp here representing the material world, which Saturn and Capricorn are very connected to. And Saturn actually can be a very spiritual planet, wanting to kind of fly out of the swamp like the dragon on his wings. So to me, it has that kind of deep connection there. Saturn governs infrastructure, so it's very connected to physical things, and it's very kind of but so obviously very connected to meditation, and it can be very deeply spiritual when it's very strong. So to me, if you meet Capricorn peoples, particularly in the nakshatras of Uttarashadha and Shravana, people have a lot of enthusiasm and energy. So there's sometimes this hard crust on the outside with Capricorn, but then there's this soft inner shell, particularly with Shravana. I mean, they're actually quite wonderful, actually. Very, very, very soft spiritual people. Saturn owns the first and the second houses for Capricorns, and that makes Capricorn very kind of connected to the material world, to the self, to self-worth, and how much money a Capricorn has because it owns the second house is very connected to one's self-worth. Rahu is also the co-owner of Aquarius, so sometimes it can bring very kind of complicated cravings and problems with family for Capricorns, not having an easy family life with Rahu owning the second house. Capricorn is connected to the Muladhara chakra, which is the root chakra that kind of grounds us to the physical world. If you meet very spiritual people who've done a lot of meditation, and if their base chakra is not very developed, they have trouble kind of holding on to money, being in the world, manifesting things. You know, they have it's like their light bulbs where they're lit up underneath, but there's no energy or grounding underneath. And Capricorn is the Muladhara chakra. It kind of grounds us to the physical world, and we need that. One of my spiritual teachers also used to say that it's very important for spiritual people to take care of their bank accounts, because if you don't have a basis in the material world to sustain your spirituality, you end up kind of floating away, and you meet people in the spiritual realm of life who are kind of like that sometimes. They don't have a clue how to deal with money. Capricorn is an earth element. It's connected to the Tamagunas. Tamagunas just makes it more material. Very connected to hard labor, concentration, hard work, deep suffering. One of the things about this nakshatra is that about the sign of the zodiac is that it's creates kind of deep suffering. Wherever if you see Capricorn anywhere in the Varga charts, you have the sun there or the moon sign there, or any planets there in any of the Varga charts, there's always a lot of hard work and deep suffering. So the big way to translate Capricorn is hard work, suffering, longevity. To me, Capricorn is kind of like the tortoise. Slow and steady wins the race. It's, Saturn's the slowest planet to move through the zodiac, 29.5 years, and everything that Capricorn does is slow. I remember one of my best office workers, who was a very accomplished Capricorn person. She had 5 planets in Capricorn, and she did a great job. But my Aries was just no match for her Capricorn, because she took a long time to get everything done. But that was her nature. But she always did a really good job. Anytime you have planets in Capricorn in the Rashi chart or the D9 chart, it can show toil, lack of hope, huge disappointment and grief. Planets in Capricorn sometimes are kind of in a coma, and they're not very friendly and very helpful, and they have to work really hard to get out of the pain of that. One of the interesting things about Capricorn is they have problems with ethics in business. Capricorn is a very kind of business sign of the zodiac. And Jupiter owns the 12th house and the 3rd house for Capricorns. And by nature, they have a problem. Jupiter is the planet of ethics and wisdom. And when Jupiter owns the 12th house, they're just unconscious about, being unethical in business. And the 3rd house is always kind of a little aggressive in trying to make things happen. So Jupiter is a really difficult planet for Capricorn. Mars rules the 4th and the 11th. It's not a good. Moon rules the 7th house. We'll talk about all of these in a minute. And Saturn, Venus, of course, is the best planet for Capricorn. The Capricorn's Achilles heel, again, is connected to when Saturn's afflicted. Capricorns can be suspicious, selfish, gloomy, overly concerned with security. Again, you get a Saturn person, a Capricorn person, is it safe? Am I going to be safe? Is it safe to travel? Again, it's one of these kind of signatures of Capricorn, and that's when Saturn's afflicted. When Saturn's strong, if it's exalted in Libra or something, Saturn can be very patient. It can be a mountain. Again, to me, Saturn and Capricorn, it's either the earthquake. When it's afflicted, it's kind of shaking, and the rocks shake, and the earth shatters, and the fear is welling up, or it's the mountain, it's just unshakable. And Capricorn has that kind of quality. I just want to look at my notes here. So Capricorn's Achilles heel. So if Saturn's afflicted, we normally think of problems with this rising sign having people being too suspicious, not making friends easily. Saturn's always a little reclusive, being selfish, having too many time constraints, or not showing up late all the time, kind of being gloomy, being overly concerned with security, and not being a good partner in relationship. Capricorns make difficult partners, as we'll see in a minute. Again, we said the 3rd house is a 3rd and 12th house for Jupiter, makes the Achilles heel kind of ethics in business. We see this like in a famous person like Bernie Madoff. I can bring his chart up, but I can get it up here. Here's Bernie Madoff's chart. Using South Indian style. Actually, we've got the wrong time here. Edit. It's actually 1:50 a.m. Capricorn rising, and he's ruled by Saturn. Saturn goes into the 3rd house. In Pisces, and Jupiter and Saturn are exchanging houses between the 2nd and the 3rd. So if you remember Bernie Madoff, he collected all these pension monies from famous people, and everybody went to him because he was making more money for people than anybody else. But a lot of the money he was making went into his wife's diamonds, and when his fund was investigated, he had this huge mess, and he went to jail. His children disowned him. You know, his wife's jewelry had to be liquidated to pay off all the people. It's quite a mess. Jupiter, he was in a Jupiter period, again, kind of an unethical period during his success, and then Saturn came over and reality took over, and he had this big downfall. So it's kind of a business. You know, we hear about problems in business all the time, and ethics in business, and that's why that's the case. If you think of China, China is also a Capricorn country. Let's look at China. China's been hugely in the news this year. Birthday for China, October 1st, 1949, 3 p.m. Why am I getting, I got 3 a.m. here, edit. Okay, Capricorn rising, moon in the first here, Jupiter in the 12th. Again, what do we know about China? Problems with ethics in business. They keep pirating everybody's software and intellectual property, and when confronted that they can't do it anymore, they say, tough, we're not going to change to what we do. China had a very difficult year because they've had Saturn and Ketu in the 12th house here, and then we've got Jupiter going through the 12th house for Jupiter return. But again, Saturn is going to go through their first house next year as Saturn goes into Capricorn. So the world's moving towards China becoming the center of the world, and you can kind of see that happening as Saturn goes into Capricorn for China. But you can see it's also this problem with ethics and business. It's one of the Achilles heels with Jupiter owning the 3rd and the 12th. Now the Sun is a kind of a mixed planet for Capricorns. It's said to be kind of neutral. The Sun's always kind of powerful because it governs the divine, and you know the divine is always loves everybody equally. So Saturn and the Sun really has a problem with Saturn, but Saturn actually is neutral to the Sun. It actually, because the divine loves everybody, and you have an exalted Sun in a Capricorn chart, they have kind of a lion's heart, you know, deep spiritual heart, and be very powerful. You don't want a debilitated Sun in a Capricorn chart in Libra because they'll be blind to seeing their controlling nature. Moon is a tricky planet for Capricorns. Cancer owns the 7th house, giving them very intuitive abilities in business and things like that, and in business relationships. But you know, and again, there's a Saturns by nature are very kind of practical and down to earth, and the emotional moon is kind of a difficult sign for Capricorn. So Capricorn and Cancers often attract each other, but very kind of difficult relationships occur. Mars is kind of a difficult planet for Capricorn. It owns the house of property, but again, the 4th house is also the heart and the mind. So it can give them kind of a cruel Martian heart again. So, and they may be very good in real estate because Mars owns the 4th, particularly if Mars is strong. Mars, if we're exalted in Capricorn, can make them very, very spiritual. Mars debilitated in Cancer would make them very kind of difficult and competitive and controlling in relationships. We talked about Jupiter's relationship with Saturn. Mercury is a mixed planet for Saturn. It owns the 9th house, so it's kind of auspicious, but it also owns the 6th house. But because Mercury is exalted in Virgo, it's considered a very good planet for Capricorn. Mercury offers wisdom and humor to get people through life's problems. So it's a reminder that one of the remedies for Capricorns is they need more comedy. Mercury is the comedian, if you remember. Saturn people need to watch more comedy. They need to laugh more. They need to not take things more seriously. Send them to Saturday Night Live, send them to the comedy club. They need a little bit of Mercury to kind of lighten the heaviness of all that Saturn. Venus is always the best planet for Capricorn rising. It rules the 5th and the 10th house, Raj Yoga Karaka. Means there's a lot of creativity at work with Taurus owning the 5th house, a lot of pride and accomplishment. And often, you know, Capricorns make good businessmen involved in investments and stocks because Taurus likes to accumulate things and to hold on to things, to hold on to the material. So Capricorn is a very kind of pension fund manager type kind of constellation. You don't want Venus debilitated in the 9th house, however, because it will create problems or too much energy into into sexual energy. Venus in Virgo is always difficult for sexual attention. Will block Saturn from finding its higher spiritual ideals. I'm not going to do Aquarius in this slide. I did want to and by just saying, you know, Capricorns are very powerful creators. In the material realm, they must remember to be ethical and to have fun. Again, Venus is always the remedy for Saturn. Again, Saturn and Venus are good friends, so Saturn needs massage, it needs sexual activity, it needs a woman in their life, and that kind of balances them out. Saturn always needs fun to counteract Saturn's and Capricorn's very business-like nature, and ultimately Saturn and Capricorn have to be spiritually initiated. You have to find other positive aspects in their lives, because if they get eventually they can accumulate all this money and stuff in their lives, again an earth sign, and they like accumulating. At the end, if they don't find God, they start thinking, what am I going to do with all this stuff? So again, spiritual initiation lightens the Capricornian load. So this is the second in our series on the signs of the zodiac. I do want to tell you a little bit more about my upcoming classes. For those of you, one of my favorite things to do, obviously, is to teach Vedic astrology. I just want to show you a couple slides here. So obviously, many of you know about my book, Finding Your Blind Spots. It's in its second edition. It's now on our website and also on Amazon, a very powerful book. We are having a special transit webinar on Sunday, January the 5th from 10 to 1 p.m. It's $24.95. If you buy any course or have taken any reading, you will get a free ticket to the webinar Sunday, January 5th from 10 to 1. We'll take a look at all the wonderful things that are happening next year. And there are a lot of wonderful things happening next year. I mean, a lot of major world and political economic events. We're also going to, in January, do a mini webinar for $95 called The Spiritual Essence of Vedic Astrology, talking about connecting Hatha Yoga to the planets and coming up with yoga therapy for problems in a chart. We'll look at chakras and the planets. We'll look at Patanjali, like the 6 systems of Indian philosophy, a little bit at the D20 chart, and we'll look at Ishta Devatas and spiritual guides in the chart. So mini 3-week class coming up. I was originally going to do 12 weeks, but I decided to now teach dasha. So also we'll have a presentation on the astrology of moksha in that mini webinar, 4th, 8th, and 12th houses. So look for that. Will be coming up on our website shortly. And we are doing a dasha class in depth. I'm excited that I taught a 7-week dasha class a couple years ago. We're doing 19 weeks this week. It's going to do it in 2 parts. It's $395, but you can take part 1 for $195. Part 1 obviously will cover all the basic rules for dashas, understanding their archetypal significance, predicting Rahu and Ketu dashas, understanding the rules for dasha and bhukti combinations, understanding the speciality of beginning and ending periods and difficult dasha and bhukti combinations. And we'll look at nakshatra techniques for predicting dashas. There's a lot of exciting things that you can do there. Part 2 of the class, if you continue, will be more advanced, talking about how to predict vargas, using dashas, looking at alternative dashas. Many of you know, besides Vimshottri dasha, there's other dashas, that sometimes work better. And then we'll look at Rashi dashas, which people don't know about. They're dashas by the signs, and they're actually more accurate for predicting the material world. The nakshatra dashas, which are connected to the mind and how we feel during a dasha period, the Rashi dashas are really actually about what happens. So we'll have about 4 weeks on Rashi dashas and in part 2 of the class. So that class is going to be $395. It is up on my website at appliedvedicastrology.com, and we will be having a preview for that class at some point in January, but we will, I know, expect it to fill up quickly. Other classes we're teaching next year, Vedic Remedies 3 with Pandit Samavedala, Practical Remedies for Money, Career, Finance, Relationships, and Difficult Dasha Periods, starting February 1st. Also, it's a Sunday from 3 to 5. Good. We'll also be doing other things later, and just some advanced nakshatra predictions. next year also. So again, thank you for being with us today on our focus on Capricorn. If you need to get a hold of me or my website, appliedvedicastrology.com. You can email me at barry@appliedvedicastrology or call our main number here. And again, I look forward to working with all of you. Again, we're always doing chart readings too. People ask me if I do charts. Of course I do, but I love teaching more than anything. Have a great week, and this is part of our weekly podcast. We'll see you next week.